Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Logan, and this is the story of someone I knew for years. Someone I trusted, someone I intended to marry, until a single moment ripped the cover off what I'd been refusing to see. That moment didn't just show me who she really was, it showed me everything I'd been overlooking for far too long. Before the turn, I want to rewind to when things were good, because they really were, or at least that's how it felt to me. Sienna and I had been together a long time. We weren't the leap-first type. We had history and patience. I stood by her through every phase, long before she landed her dream position at a top consulting firm, back when she was unsure of her path and struggling to find traction. I was there. Mock interviews, portfolio tweaks, pep talks after rejection emails. I believed in her when she didn't, and I never once made her feel small for stumbling while she was climbing. Photography was never just a hobby for me. It was the thing, my work, my craft, my life's focus. I poured everything into it. I saved, invested in the best equipment I could afford, and built a portfolio from the ground-up local events first, then regional gigs, and eventually placements in well-known magazines that had once felt out of reach. I wasn't scraping by. I was doing well. I was proud of the business I had made with my hands and eyes. At first, Sienna was proud, too. I remember how she used to brag. She'd tell people, "Logan is insanely talented. His photos are incredible." And she'd pull up my shots for her friends, thrilled when one of my features went live. I truly believed she saw me clearly. Someone who turned a passion into something sturdy and meaningful. I had no reason to think that would ever shift, but slowly it did. The pivot began as small comments that I brushed aside. She had just started her consulting role, and I knew the ramp-up was brutal. Long hours, pressure, important clients, a brand new culture. I expected stress and tried to absorb it. Then the way she talked about my work changed. Not a slap, not at first, more like a sideways slice. The first time we were having dinner and sketching wedding details. I was excited, talking about a new lens I'd been saving for. She sighed and said, "You should get a real job with a steady salary. Weddings aren't cheap, you know." She laughed immediately after, as if the joke could erase the sting. I let it go. Weeks later at the mall, she spotted a coworker and waved, but didn't bring me over. When she returned, she said she hadn't introduced me because she wasn't sure how to describe what I do. I stood there puzzled, told myself she meant it lightly, and pushed it down. The third time stripped away ambiguity. We were at home talking about nothing in particular when she said, photography's nice and all, but it's not really a career, right?" She tossed it out casually, like it was just an observation. That's when it clicked. She wasn't joking. She believed that. In her mind, all I'd built from nothing was a side diversion, not real work. Still, I let it slide. I made excuses, told myself she didn't mean harm, reminded myself this was the woman I'd loved for years, the same person who once cheered for me loud. I dismissed it as stress talking. Looking back, that was my first mistake. Then came her company's annual office party. She invited me as her +1. The venue was upscale, a private hall with glass walls, sleek lines, and a crowd of polished pros who moved like they'd been born in blazers. The talk was deals, promotions, 6-figure packages, and international projects. I wasn't intimidated, just aware. Their world was a different shape than mine. I wasn't ashamed. I love what I do and I know what it's worth. She introduced me to a cluster of colleagues, 4 or 5, each with a drink, trading notes about an upcoming engagement with a big-name client. A guy in a crisp navy suit, close to our age, turned to me and asked, "So, Logan, what do you do?" His tone was polite, but I could feel the assumption something in consulting, or tech, something that fit the room. I opened my mouth to answer, but Sienna beat me to it. She gave a small, amused scoff, the kind people use to tee up a joke, and said, "Oh, Logan? He basically gets paid to take fancy selfies. The way the group laughed told me everything. It wasn't polite chuckling. It was open entertainment, like she'd delivered the line of the night. Glances bounced around. A few smirks landed on me, and one woman nodded. Oh, that's cute. I stood there, feeling the laughter tighten around me, and for the first time, I saw Sienna clearly. This wasn't a whoops or a harmless quip. This was how she saw me, how she'd likely always seen me. In her eyes, I was just a guy snapping fancy selfies for money. Suddenly, the earlier remarks assembled themselves. The subtle digs, the hesitation when people asked what I do, the avoidance at the mall. She wasn't proud of me or of us. My career wasn't respectable enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with hers. In that moment, I knew one thing. I was not going to build a life with someone who looked down on me while calling it love. I remember gripping my glass a little harder, then setting it down like I was setting down something heavier. I looked her in the eye and said, "If you don't respect what I do, you don't respect me, and I won't spend my life with someone who belittles me." The room went silent like someone cut a wire. Eyes flicked between us. Sienna's mouth opened, then reshaped into a nervous laugh, like maybe she could still turn it into a joke. I didn't laugh. I reached for her hand, slipped off the engagement ring, and put it in my pocket. There were gasps, a whisper from the bar, "Damn." But I didn't hang around to collect reactions. I didn't need an audience. I turned and left, a clean exit from a place where I clearly wasn't valued. She didn't reach out at first. No text, no call, nothing. That didn't surprise me. Pride had always been her armor. Admitting fault wasn't part of her script. After that night, she must have felt humiliated, not just because I left in front of her work circle, but because I did it on my terms. I wasn't the punchline. I was the person who walked away. For someone who prized optics, that had to bite. Weeks later, the silence broke. She sent a long message, full of predictable lines. "I've been thinking about what happened. I didn't mean it that way. You know I respect you. I was just joking. I didn't realize how it sounded. Can we talk?" I read it and let it sit. If she'd sent it the next day, maybe I could have believed it was a lapse, a bad attempt at humor, real remorse. But after weeks of nothing? No, this wasn't regret. It was reputation management. She wasn't reaching out because she disrespected me. She was reaching out because she hated how it looked, to friends, to family already expecting invitations with both our names on them. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was clear. Sienna had never truly been proud of me. She tolerated my career, but she didn't respect it. She wanted a fiancé who fit her world, someone she could present without explanation, someone with a title that said enough by itself. That wasn't me. It had never been me. So I replied, not to fight, but to close the door gently and firmly. "I appreciate the message. I wish you the best, Sienna. Truly. But it's better for both of us if we move on." Short. Simple. Final. She didn't respond, and I knew she wouldn't. That was the moment I decided I deserved better. Someone who didn't just put up with my dream, but believed in it. Someone who would never laugh at my work in private or in public. Someone who understood that passion and profession can be the same thing. I packed my bags. Our small town had been my comfort zone long enough. I wasn't going to sit in the same streets haunted by the life that almost happened. I'd always wanted to take my photography further, and there was one place that made sense. New York. Intimidating? Sure. Expensive? Absolutely. But for the first time in a long while, I made a decision with zero compromises. Just a man choosing what he loves. That felt like real freedom. I said yes to everything that made me grow fashion editorials, events, travel assignments, anything that sharpened my eye and stretched my portfolio. I worked harder than ever, and this time it felt different, like I was building something no one could reduce to a joke. Months passed, and I wasn't just getting by. I was thriving. Then came the email that shifted the frame. One of my photographs had been shortlisted for a major international award. I thought it had to be a mistake. I reread it 3 times. It was real. Out of thousands of entries, my work had been chosen. When I later saw my name listed as the winner, I just stared at the screen. A quiet, steady kind of shock. Not the "I can't believe it" kind. The "I knew I could, and now the world agrees" kind. I had always believed I was damn good at what I do. Now the panel said it out loud. I don't know if Sienna ever saw the news. Maybe she regretted how it ended. Or maybe she convinced herself she'd been right all along. It doesn't matter. That chapter is closed. The biggest win wasn't the award or the recognition. It was being surrounded by people who actually value me, people who see the work as art, not fancy selfies. Among them was someone who didn't just admire what I do, but respected it. Someone who saw me clearly and never once tried to make me smaller. Respect in a relationship is non-negotiable. That's a lesson I learned the hard way. If someone keeps joking about your dream, especially in public, especially with a smile, pay attention. Those jokes aren't harmless. They're X-rays. They show you exactly how that person sees you. If they don't respect what you do, they don't respect you. Period. I told myself it was nothing, that she didn't mean it, that maybe I was being too sensitive. Looking back, it was simple. People who love you don't shrink the thing that makes you come alive. They don't press you down just because your path doesn't look like theirs. I walked away because staying would have meant losing myself by inches, and I've never once regretted choosing self-respect over an engagement that made me feel like I wasn't enough. If you're in something similar, if you're with someone who keeps minimizing your work stop, and ask, do you really want to spend your life proving your worth to someone who refuses to see it? You don't have to. The right person will recognize your value without a sales pitch. Anyway, that's my story. Now, I want to hear yours. Have you dealt with anything like this? What would you have done in my place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story resonated, hit that like button. It helps more than you know.